Getting your Django app online doesn't have to be a headache, and Render simplifies this process. In this video, I'll show you how Render makes hosting your Django app a breeze. You can even host multiple apps on their free plan. Plus, it automatically updates your app every time you push your changes to GitHub. Let's jump in and get your app running in no time. So the first step, is to create a Render account. If you don't already have one, go to render.com and sign up. This will give you access to Render's deployment services. So I've already created a Render account, but what I'm going to do is I want to show you the pricing plan and what you can do with the hobby plan, which is the free plan for $0. You can see that these are the things that you can do. You can host web services like Django itself. You can host static sites. So you have an application that is in basic HTML and JS. You can host it here. You can do cron jobs. You can do one-off jobs, background workers. You can set background workers. You can set free instances, and there is a lot that you can do. Okay, and you can host, like I said, many web services. The limitation is now the resources that they are going to provide you. So you can come here and look at what the free plan offers you, but what I can say is it's a lot for the free plan. So since I've already created my account, I'm going to go to dashboard, and then we are going to do step number 2. So here I am just going to log in. I signed in with GitHub. So you can also sign up with GitHub. It will just make it easier since our app is going to be deployed to GitHub. So if you sign up with GitHub, it will just simplify the process. So you can see here, I already have these Django apps deployed. So let's go to the other step. The other step is to prepare your Django project. So before deploying, make sure your Django project is set up and running well on your local machine. If you have any issues, address them to ensure a smooth deployment process. For me, this is my application, and you can see here it's running. And if I go to the browser, this is my application. So make sure your application is running properly before you even go any further. So once we've done that, we need now to install a number of packages. The first package that we're going to install is Gunicorn. So Gunicorn is a WSGI server that runs Python web applications. So to install this one, we are going to do, let me just close this. We're going to do pip install Gunicorn. And this is going to install Gunicorn in our environment. And that's something that you can also take note of. In my project, I have this VENV, and this is my virtual environment. If you don't know how to create virtual environments, I have a video talking about this process. But this is a very important process to do when you're setting up your application or your Django application. So let's move on. The next step is to add allowed host. Let's go to allowed host right here. So I'm going to call my application list auth on Lender. So it should be in the name of your application and then followed by .onlender.com. So once I've done this, let me just say that if you don't add this, you're going to see some errors and issues once we have deployed on Render. So you can just add it, but if you don't, you're going to see those issues. So after that, the last thing that we need to do is to set up WhiteNoise for static files. So to handle static files such as CSS and JavaScript in production, we need to use WhiteNoise. it is recommended that we use WhiteNoise when we are hosting with render. It's not a requirement anywhere, but this is a recommendation that the render team has provided. So this simplifies saving static files directly from your Django app without uh, if you jump this process, then you're going to realize that once you have deployed your application and then you go to the admin section of your application, you will see that it's not saving static files. Or if you go to other places in your application, you'll see that it's not static, it's not saving static files like CSS and JavaScript. So to install WhiteNoise, we need to do pip install WhiteNoise. So after we've installed it, we need to go back and update our settings. We need to add a WhiteNoise middleware. So I'm going to go where we have middlewares right here, and then we need to add the WhiteNoise middleware. It's recommended that this middleware is at the top just before the security middleware. So right here we can add this middleware. You may have other middlewares on the top, like, but it's recommended that we have it here. So that's the thing. And after we've added the WhiteNoise middleware, the last thing that we need to do is to go to our static URLs. I think it's at the bottom here. So we have static URL, and then we're going to add the following code, and I'll explain why. So we're saying if it's not in debug mode, then maybe it's in production, then let's save static root as this path. Okay, and then we're going to do static storage here. It should be white noise storage. I'm going to save this. And then the final thing is to freeze our requirements. If you're not going to freeze your requirements, then you're going to face issues when installing, when building on render. So to do that, I'm going to freeze my requirements. And now you can see we have a requirements.txt file here. And this is very important. You can see we have Gunicorn and other libraries that we have installed. So this is now everything that we need to do on our local machine. The next step is now to push this to GitHub. So how are we going to do that? For me, I just like to use GitHub text. I think it simplifies the process, but you can use GitHub commands. Just make sure your application is on GitHub. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to add this existing repository. But first of all, I need to make sure that I have initialized this repository. So I'm going to do that. And then for the commit, I will say initial commit. Yes. Okay. So I'm going to go back to GitHub, and then let's add here an existing repo. And then we're going to choose the path. So I'm going to select this, add this repo, and then you can see it says publish the repository. Okay, it says, should I keep it private? I just have to answer these things. If you have a description, you can add it there. If you want to change the name, you can also do that. I'm not going to do any of that. I'm also not going to add it to any organization, so I'm going to publish the repository. Once I've done that, I am going to go back to my browser and go back to render. So here, what I'm going to do is I'm going to click here on new, and then it should be a web service. These are applications that are already on render for me. So that's why I said you can host multiple files or multiple projects. But what I need to do is to configure the specific application that I've just pushed to GitHub. So I'm going to configure here. I need to authenticate This is just a requirement. So just hold on a bit. Let me authenticate. Authenticating, I get this. And what this is doing is saying repository access. And then there are two options. We can allow all repositories, but I don't like to do that. What I do is I select a specific repository and add it to this list. So our repository was called test auth. What's happening here? Just let's do it again. So I'm going to search for test auth, this one. And then now you can see here it is. I'm going to save. Once I've done that, you can see now we have it here. I'm going to click it so that we can start the process. Connect here, and it takes you to this page. So basically, this is the configuration page. Like, remember here we have the name. So if I go back to my application, remember the name that we included on render. For render, let's see our settings. Just give it a moment. Let me find where we added that. It has to be allowed host. Yeah. So we provided the name list host. I'm going to take the same name. Another good way of doing this is to have environmental variables. Because if you have environmental variables, you can change those environmental variables directly within render. I'm going to show you how. So we've added the name here, and then it's going to use Python 3. This is the GitHub branch that we're going to target. So if there are any changes pushed to this main branch, it's going to automatically build this project. And then here we have to choose where this is by default, but we can choose to deploy it in another region. And then here it says root directory. This is optional. So we're going to let it as it is. Here on Gunicorn, what we have to do is go back to your project and then look at the main, like the main app. So inside here, you can see mine is list auth, and inside here we have a WSGI file. So what I need to do is say, come here and say Gunicorn. So here it's supposed to be Gunicorn list auth.wsgi because we want to target this WSGI file. Okay, so once we've done that, we're going to select the free plan. And then if we have any environmental variables, we can add them here. But otherwise, this is all you need. And then we are just going to deploy it. This is going to take a while, but once it finishes, your application is going to give you a domain. You can see it has already provided us a domain. And then once it finishes rebuilding, we can access our application or our project using this domain. So you can see the first thing that it's doing is installing all our dependencies. And this is using the requirements.txt. That's why it was very important for us to install to have the requirements.txt there to freeze our dependencies, because that's what it uses. Okay, so it's saying it has built successfully. Now it's deploying. So let's just give it a moment and see what happens. You can see here it says your service is live. So let's look at a few things. First thing is, if you go to this URL that Lender has provided, you can see my application is here, and this is my Django. This is my Django API. So it's live, and then, like I said, it doesn't have any errors to do with allowed host because we sorted that out. But if you didn't add any allowed host or renders allowed host, then you're going to face an issue when you come to this URL. The next thing is, when we go to admin, if you don't have WhiteNoise configured, this should give you an admin that doesn't show any CSS because you cannot access your static files. So let's see. If we go to admin, what happens? Then you can see that our admin section looks perfect. It has all the CSS that it's supposed to have, and everything is working. So you can see this video has taken quite a long time, but at the end of the day, this is the process that if you know what to do, you can do it within 5 minutes of your time, or even less than that. But now the good thing is, once you've done that once, every time you push your changes to GitHub, then those changes reflect immediately. Not immediately as such, but the GitHub action is executed automatically, and then your changes will be redeployed on render. So that's a good thing. If you love this video, then feel free to subscribe and like the video. Until next time, have a great time.